Independent study.
This is Student A. Student A is currently a 5th grader at DC Bilingual Public Charter School located in Northeast DC. He was diagnosed with low-spectrum autism at the age of 3. He has many interaction issues and struggles, but performs well academically. He enjoys playing with Legos and dancing.
What has been one of the most challenging things with the student in particular that we're talking about?
With this student in particular, it has been being able to help the student in their social setting. So for that student to feel empowered and feeling good about themselves inside, being assertive, so they can go ahead and communicate themselves with others and have that positive interaction, as well as educating our other students to be able to be inclusive, because that's our school, we like to be inclusive. So that's very important that we communicate from both ends, and that the individual student knows that, and that our students in the school know that as well, so that there can be that unison and that everybody can cooperate.
Student A is in a class designed for students who have learning disabilities that range from 3rd to 5th graders, which are called studio classes. His teachers are Miss Amy Cochran and Miss Trayon Reed. This is his 5th year in a studio class. 1st and 2nd grade were spent in Studio 4, while 3rd up to now have been spent in Studio 7. He works closely with the other 2 5th graders in the class and participates in specials and science with the main 5th grade classes throughout the day.
You all were telling me, well, what's equivalent to 1/2 would be 1/4, 2/4. The number on the top is showing us how many pieces we're using, how many pieces are colored in. Like it might be, if this was a pizza, it might be, I'm giving 2 of the 4 pieces of my pizza to Mari. Is going to eat 2 of the 4 pieces of pizza. 2 pieces, but there are...
4.
Right, there's 4s because how many pieces are there all together?
4.
4. The number on the top, the numerator, is telling us how many pieces we're talking about, how many pieces we're using, whatever it is, in the situation we're working with. It's telling us how many pieces we're talking about. The denominator is telling us how many pieces there are in one whole. Okay? This gets a little trickier when we talk about mixed numbers and improper fractions, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Okay. I want to start with this review because I know that last year our fractions unit we had to do a lot of backpedaling when we were in it, and this year we don't have time for that. We've been working a lot to make sure that we have this. I am going to. So like the thing is that like, hang on. I want to be serious with you all so that you understand this and you come to math every day like thinking I'm going to learn because I don't have time to like waste on this. Like we need to be really purposeful in how we're doing it. So like, yeah, purposeful. That means like you're acting with a purpose. You're not just saying, I don't get it because you're tired and you don't want to.
So what are you guys doing? What are you guys building?
I'm gonna make a house.
Is your favorite color purple, Sophie?
I'm gonna make a 2-story house.
Oh my gosh, this is such a good idea.
And to get more. My birthday party! This is my probably balcony. Can I use those?
What has worked is being able, so we do a lot of play therapy here and also role play. So for the student, it's very important that they move around, that he moves around a lot so that he's able to practice whatever strategies he has learned and making it easier for him to put it into play in the outside of our sessions, right? So whether it's at recess or at lunch, whenever there's that type of interaction. I think what has been the struggle is if there has been like a change, if anything is modified in his schedule, I think that impacts him, right? And that's where we have been working with him for a while, because sometimes he's able to understand it, sometimes he needs that review of like what we worked on. But overall, being able to let him know beforehand, like, look, these are the changes that are going to happen, or there's going to be some modifications because of these reasons, has helped him to understand. So preparing him beforehand works well for him to not provide those undesired behaviors. My advice is, I think the whole communication with the family at home, being able to educate yourself in that area of their disability, and knowing that there are always supports around. Being able to identify that support system is very important for you to actually understand and know how to work with the student, not just in school but also outside of school.
Okay, and finally, what would help him prepare for the next step, which in his case would be middle school?
We've been doing a lot of transitions sessions within our sessions, our counseling sessions. So, and of course, being able to have him physically attend the school. So we have like the buddy days that we provide like in November, and because they need that experience, not just like having lessons or like being educated in certain areas of their transition of when they go to middle school, but being able to actually experience it also helps as well, because for the student in particular, he's a visual, so he needs to see how things work and how things are managed in order for him to better grasp the idea of like, oh, okay, it helps him to calm down. Like, he needs that exposure in order for him to not increase any type of anxiety, because he does have, sometimes he gets worried or thinks too much of something. So that is also very helpful.
This is Student B. Student B is currently an 8th grader at DC International School located in Northwest DC. He is known to have concentration issues while in a class setting. He is very social and has many friends, but has trouble performing well academically. He enjoys playing baseball.
Can you describe to me some of the changes you've seen over time while you've worked with the student?
Sure, absolutely. So the student that we are talking about today, in particular, his advocacy skills have grown substantially since we first started working together last year. Initially, some of the bigger challenges that he had, consisted of shutting down when challenged and not necessarily being able to communicate with anyone what was going on.
Since Student B is in middle school, he doesn't have 1 or 2 main teachers that work with him all day, every day. He has about 7 teachers he sees a day, but he does have a strong support team with Mr. Justin LaRoque, Mr. Henry Garcia, and Miss Rebecca Furrer. Student B does not do well academically and easily gives up when he doesn't understand something.
Like 3 years ago, he was actually in my Spanish class, and that's how me and him got really close. So that's why we have a great relationship. What I've seen from him is, as he gets older, he kind of gets more distracted, and his lack of academics, to the point like he doesn't care because he doesn't feel supported. Knowing working with him through baseball, I know that's something that he really cares about. He couldn't play for me the last few years because of his grades, and it's just a lack of him not giving his all.
What's been the most effective with him? Is it developing a relationship, talking, listening?
Developing a relationship, which involves talking and listening, but he has to feel safe with you and feel that you trust him and that you want the best for him and that you're actually going to help him. And for me to get to that point with him, it took me like probably until about halfway through 7th grade. He felt like he could trust me.
With him, it's all about relationships. If he's in a classroom and he doesn't have a relationship since day one with the teacher, it's not going to work out. You have to build a relationship, and one way to really build that is through the passion that he has for baseball. So that's actually how me and him got to have a relationship, and because I'm also from where he is from, Dominican Republic, we have also built that connection.
In my opinion, the most successful support that we've kind of fostered together started by developing the relationship, and I would add on to that listening rather than talking.
What's been one of the most challenging things with him?
One of the more challenging things is getting him to follow directions for a long period of time. So if you tell him to sit down, he'll sit down, but he might only do it for 5 seconds. So in a way, he did comply with your instruction, but what you want is for him to sit down for an entire class period and not leave the room for an entire class period. And so that's his distress tolerance is very low. So the minute he gets irritated, he just wants to leave. And we got to work on keeping him in the room and making sure that he can handle his own emotions in the space where he's at.
For him is, you have to, like I said before, it's like you really have to get to know him and build something with him and get to know him as a person, because a lot of these kids go through stuff. So it's just getting to know more and really working with him and staying on top of him, just not giving up on him, because sometimes we come about like, oh, it's and he's already labeled. So I feel like we can't give up on him. We gotta give him a chance.
Having really good advocates, having people who know you well and understand you and know what you need and can help you ask for it is really, really important. Because a lot of times kids don't know how to say it in a way that an adult will understand, but if you have an adult that understands that kid, then the adult can say it. I mean, the goal is always for the kids to be able to speak for themselves and feel empowered to advocate for themselves and have agency in their lives, but sometimes they don't have the skills, so they need to be built up.
Both of these students obviously have things that were holding them back, but as the majority of professionals and teachers say, these students are brighter than what they seem. What is missing almost always is support and someone to talk to. Luckily, these students have had the opportunity to work closely with others that have helped them overcome things that held them back from being the amazing kids they are. Student A is ready to go to 6th grade and adjust to a new environment socially, and hopefully will be able to overcome his fear of talking to people and adapting to things not always going on schedule. Student B, with a little more academic help, will be ready and could succeed tremendously when he goes off to high school in a few months.